Welcome to the Next Level Facebook Ads Podcast with Phil Graham. We help you master Facebook ads and give you an unfair advantage over your competition. Are you ready? Let's go.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Next Level Facebook Ads Podcast, episode 474. I'm Phil Graham. It is June 9th. I'm glad you're here because today I want to talk about a big thing that so many advertisers make mistakes with, and that is data and timing. I'm going to talk about how much data is enough before you make a change or a decision when it comes to your Facebook and Instagram ads. And I'll say one of the hardest parts of running ads is knowing when to make a change. When do you stop an ad? How long should you let it run? Should you increase the budget? Should you decrease it? Should you test something new? Should you ignore certain things? And the answer really depends on a lot of different factors. So today in this episode, I want to talk about, in my opinion, how much data is enough before you need to make a change or a decision. There's no perfect universal number, but there are some ways to think about it that can help you avoid either overreacting and changing too soon or waiting forever and maybe not changing soon enough. Because if you get this stuff wrong, it can really mess things up and it can really cost you potentially a lot of time and money. So I'm super glad you guys are here. If you want to get in touch, if you're looking for any help with your ads or AI, whether that's done for you or one-on-one consulting, just go to my website, philgrahamdigital.com, or DM me on Instagram at philgrahamdigital, and I would love to connect with you. So I want to jump right in and keep this episode short, sweet, full of value, and very actionable as usual. And let's talk about these things because it is so important. The first key in terms of how much data is enough before making a change. Not all data is equally useful. So that's really important. For example, I've seen data where an ad had just, a very small amount of impressions. And no matter what, whether it's an amazing result or a horrible result, we don't know enough because there's only a small amount of impressions. It's not enough data to judge. It's not enough to be useful. In fact, sometimes I'll see somebody using Meta's Advantage Plus, and they'll have like 25 ads in an ad set, all sharing the same budget. And there'll be an ad that's getting a lot of the ad spend because Meta wants it that way. And the cost per acquisition might be like $50, and it's gotten a lot of ad spend. And there might be another ad in there where the cost per acquisition is like $7, but it's only gotten, $14 of ad spend. And so there's two conversions. Now, you can't assume that that's going to continue to happen as it gets more reach. You also do want to test it because it's off to a great start. Not all data is equal or useful. A few impressions, a few clicks means not much at all. If you have 27 clicks to the website or landing page or sales page, that's nothing. You should have 500 or 1,000 before you really make a judgment in a lot of situations. Same thing with just a few leads, etc. So make sure that you have to have enough data before you make a decision. You can't just make it on small amounts. I wish I could tell you guys exactly how much you need, but there are lots of variables depending on a lot of different things. So I can't just give you blanket numbers. But if you had a gun to my head and said you have to, I would tell you shoot for 500 to 1,000 clicks to your website at least. But again, I could have situations where it could be less or more than that, depending on a lot of variables. So just keep that in mind. But I think you get the message. I think you get the point. If you have a tiny bit of data, you need more before you can make a decision on whether an ad should be scaled or turned off or changed. A small amount of data is not enough to know whether you should change something yet, in my opinion. One other quick thing on this first key is what kind of data is important too. So clicks, those are important, but there's more important data as well, like leads or even sales. So the deeper the action people take, the more useful that signal is. But again, you still need enough of it or else you're going to be just flying blind. So remember that. Key number 2, ad spend matters, but context matters even more. So you can't make the same decision after $20 of ad spend that you would after $2,000. That's a huge difference. months. And there are so many variables. A lead gen offer versus an e-commerce store are two totally different things. A retargeting campaign is totally different from a top of the funnel cold campaign. So instead of just asking, okay, well, how much did we spend in general? Because yeah, spend matters, but the context is even more important. You want to ask yourself, how much was the conversion? What did it cost to get a customer? You also want to think about, what is your buying cycle time? Is it quick? Do they just hop on and buy an e-commerce product? Or is it something that takes weeks or months because maybe you have like a service or a course or something like that? And you got to look at the whole picture. How much traffic did you generate? How many conversions happened? What was the cost per conversion? Is that normal for your account or not? And how long is that buying cycle? There's a lot of context here too. It's not just about the numbers of the data of the ad spend and the data inside of that, but it's the context around it as well. So it's not just letting it run long enough, but it's putting it into context, because an e-commerce shop where most people either buy or don't buy on the first visit is very different in terms of how you should evaluate your data and how long you should let things run than maybe somebody that's got a service business where the sales cycle is weeks or months. Those are two very different things. And there's a lot of other variables too within that. So you have to remember not just spend, but context and timing as well. And so that's where, to me, this is a little challenging, this topic today, because there's not just one recommendation I can give everybody, because there are so many variables. But just remember, ad spend matters, but it only matters when you understand the full context and you have baselines for what's normal in your account. And then you can decide, okay, yes, this is within that baseline. We need to make a change, or no, we don't have enough data, or it hasn't run long enough. You can make a smarter decision. The third key is you want to look for patterns. You don't want to look for one-offs or short-term things, and you don't want to look in terms of like with your emotions, because Facebook and Instagram ads and data, it fluctuates a lot. You might have an amazing day one day and a horrible day the next. The ad that is your best ad today might not be next week, and it's fluctuating. A lot of different things can happen over the course of a couple days or a week, and you want to make decisions on data and patterns, not on emotions. So when you're looking at something and let's say it's not doing well, maybe the click-through rate is low, maybe the cost per lead or acquisition is low, and you don't like it, you have to look at not just short term, but look at a longer term view of it. Is it consistently getting worse over weeks or more? Or are you just looking at a couple days? Because if you're just looking at a couple days, that's kind of ridiculous, because it's normal for things to ebb and flow over the course of a few days or even a week or so. So you got to remember that. You got to look at this in a smart way, realize that they move around, and you want to give it a little bit of a larger window of time. What I like to do is typically look at things in 2-week chunks of time. It doesn't mean I don't look sooner than that, and I may make decisions sooner than that too. Like, there are variables. But in general, I think a 2-week chunk of time is a pretty good time to where you're not typically making decisions too quick, and you're also not letting it run too long either. I think that's, like, in general, if I had to kind of give a general, number, around 2 weeks is pretty good. So you're not looking at one day or even a couple days. You're looking at a few weeks, and you're looking at patterns and trends, not individual outliers over the course of a small amount of time. And then my last key for you guys today is you want to be careful of data that might look clear, but it's not. Sometimes data looks really obvious, but we've talked about this before. The sample size of that data might be way too small. You might start a new campaign with 2 ads, and after 3 days, one ad might have 3 purchases, and the second ad might have 0 purchases, and it might look absolutely horrible. And it looks very clear. Oh, ad number 1, let's keep it going or even scale it. Ad number 2 has 0 purchases. Let's turn it off. It sucks. It's only been 3 days. It's hardly had any reach. That is not what I recommend. That is not clear data, because it's not enough data. You've got to be so careful with that. Another one that I see that's common I'll see somebody that mentions they have a really good click-through rate. Oh my gosh, it's like 4% or 5%. But then I see, oh, well, there's only like 10 clicks on that ad so far total. I mean, that means nothing. Come back to me when it's like 1,000 clicks. And if you still have a really good click-through rate, then yeah, you do. But when it's hardly any clicks, it doesn't mean anything yet. Same thing with audiences. Let's say you're testing a couple different audiences and one is doing way better than the other. Unless it's been some weeks or longer, it really isn't enough for you to make a good decision. So small data like that can be really loud and look obvious, but a lot of times that doesn't mean it's right. And many times it'll just send you down the wrong direction if you trust it with such small numbers. So in a nutshell, before making changes, I make sure, hey, has this been running long enough or not? And again, unless I'm working with you specifically, I can only give you generals on this, but I would say at least a couple weeks for a lot of you guys is what I would let it run without knowing your exact business. And I would then decide, okay, it's been a couple weeks, maybe there's 500 or more clicks. That's a little bit more reasonable than a couple days or 27 clicks. So make sure you ask yourself if it's been running long enough before you make changes. There's no perfect answer on how long to let things run. The more you do it, the better you get at it. But you can get better by making smart decisions based off of not only data, but enough data. And also remembering you're not making it off of a couple days of data, but trends and patterns over time. The goal is not to just let it run forever, but you want to avoid making big decisions from small amounts of data too soon, because that's what so many advertisers do. And that can cause a lot of problems for many advertisers. And as always, just a reminder, it's always important to point out that every business is unique. Results can vary. There's no guaranteed outcomes. So always keep that in mind. So I hope that was helpful. This is really important stuff. Episode 474 is in the books, my friends. I've got another great one for you next week. We're going to be talking about the Facebook ad funnel leak that I see all the time. The funnel leak. It is so common, causes so many issues. Make sure you check that out next week. Between now and then, if you want to get in touch, philgrahamdigital.com is the website. I hope you have an amazing week, and I will talk to you on next week's episode. Peace out.
Thanks for listening to the Next Level Facebook Ads Podcast. Please remember to subscribe and share this with all your friends. For show notes, more tips, and to learn more about Phil, please visit philgrahamdigital.com/podcast.